I had to live through what every father prays he never faces. 2 enforcers rammed a beat-up white truck straight through my garage, demanding that I finally comply. Their excuse: that we had broken their precious rules and were threatening the so-called value of the community. But here's the truth. The only ones forced into compliance that day were them after my son stood his ground, rifle in hand, and made them back off. But I'm jumping ahead. Let me rewind. My name's Mark Walker. Most days, that name just means simple things: brewing a halfway decent cup of coffee, cracking bad jokes my son secretly laughs at, and trying to keep our yard from looking like a science experiment. My wife, Lisa, she's the sharp one. She notices the details I overlook, connects dots I didn't even know existed. And then there's our boy, Cole, 13 years old, standing at the line between being a kid who still needs his parents and a young man learning to carry his own weight. He's quiet, steady, observant. Sometimes I swear he's more grown up than me. We'd built a quiet life in a good home, in a neighborhood where the biggest drama was usually a deer trampling someone's petunias. No homeowners association. That wasn't an accident. We chose this place deliberately. I believe a man's home is his castle, not a duplex coned by a committee of curtain twitchers. We liked our privacy. We liked our peace. And on that Sunday, the peace felt flawless. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, turning floating dust motes into tiny sparks. The smell of coffee was thick and comforting. Lisa sat at the table, scrolling on her tablet with that little smile, the kind she wears when she's winning an argument with a stranger online. Cole was sprawled on the living room floor, cleaning gears from one of his model kits with meticulous patience. It wasn't empty silence, but full the kind of quiet packed with contentment. I sipped my coffee. It wasn't great, but it was good. Good enough for a Sunday. I was just deciding if I had the energy to finally fix the squeaky backdoor hinge when the world tilted. It started as a low rumble, a sound that didn't belong. Not a plane, not a delivery truck, something deeper, meaner. It grew faster, scream of engine and tearing metal. I set my mug down, my hands steady but my insides cold. Lisa's head snapped up, eyes wide. Cole froze, a brass gear still pinched between his fingers. The sound was racing up our driveway. Too fast, too deliberate. There was no time for questions, only for impact. The crash was unforgettable. Not just a bang, but an eruption of wood and steel. The whole house shook. Pictures rattled on the wall. My mug shattered on the floor. It sounded like the world had split in two inside our garage. For one breathless heartbeat silence. Then came the tinkle of falling glass. My body moved before my brain caught up. Lisa was right on my heels, gripping my arm. Mark, what was that? Her voice was tight, not panicked, practical as always. I don't know, I muttered. Stay here, both of you. Cole rose, pale but steady, and gave me one short nod. He understood. I peered through the small front window. My stomach turned to stone. A battered white work truck sat buried halfway into our garage. The door wasn't dented, it was obliterated. Splinters and twisted metal everywhere. The grill sat where my workbench had once been. Steam hissed from the hood. But it wasn't the truck that chilled me. It was the 2 men climbing out. The driver shoved his door open with a grunt. He was huge, broad shoulders, heavy arms, built like he'd been poured into his shirt. His hair was buzzed short, his jaw clenched like stone. He scanned the wreckage with an expression that wasn't shock or apology. No, he looked satisfied. The passenger climbed out slower, but with the same deliberate confidence. Taller, leaner. His eyes flicked over the house like he was assessing a target. Both men wore black shirts with bold white letters stenciled across the front. HOA enforcement. My gut twisted. Homeowners Association. In our neighborhood, we didn't have one. That had been the point of living here. Lisa appeared at my shoulder, ignoring my order to stay put. Her face went pale when she saw the scene. Cole hovered behind her, fists clenched, ready but silent. The bigger man adjusted his belt, stepped forward, and barked out, Walker family, you've been warned. Time to comply. His voice wasn't a shout, it was worse. Calm, cold, like a debt collector come to settle accounts. Lisa's hand found mine, not trembling, just tight. I forced the front door open, stepping onto the porch. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice level. You just drove a truck into my house. What the hell do you think you're doing? The lean one smirked. What we were authorized to do. You ignored notices, violated code, property values at stake. We fixed that. There is no HOA here, I snapped. You've got the wrong place. The big man sneered. Not anymore. The neighborhood voted. New rules? You didn't show up. Not our fault. You're under compliance now, and you're out of line. My brain struggled to keep up. HOA voted. None of this made sense. But their posture told me logic wasn't going to solve this. They weren't here to talk. Lisa stepped up beside me. You can't just... The tall one cut her off, pointing toward the wreckage. Non-compliance means enforcement. We'll start with this garage. Tear it down if we have to. The way he said it casual, like discussing the weather, sent ice down my spine. Cole's voice broke the moment, steady but young. Dad. I glanced back. His eyes weren't wide with fear. They were narrowed, watchful. He was reading the men like pieces on a chessboard. I turned back to the intruders. My voice came out harder now. You've got 30 seconds to get off my property before I call the real cops. The big man chuckled. Not friendly, not nervous, amused. You think the sheriff cares? He's with us. This is bigger than you, Walker. This is order. And order doesn't wait for permission. He stepped closer, each footfall heavy, deliberate, like a wolf closing in. Lisa gripped my arm tighter. Cole's jaw set. I realized in that moment we weren't dealing with neighbors. We were dealing with enforcers. And they weren't leaving on their own. The taller one tapped the side of the truck, like he was proud of the destruction. This is just the beginning. Non-compliance gets handled, one way or another. Either you follow the rules, or you get forced out. Simple. Lisa's eyes burned. You think crashing a truck into someone's home is legal? You're insane. The big man gave her a slow grin that didn't reach his eyes. Lady, legalities, whatever we decide it is. That's the benefit of order. Someone's gotta keep folks in line. That was when Cole moved. Quiet, precise. He slipped past us and disappeared into the house. For a split second, my chest clenched in panic. But then I understood. He wasn't running away, he was preparing. I tried to stall them. You've made your point. You broke my garage. You scared my family. Congratulations. Now get back in your truck and get the hell out before you regret it. The lean one leaned forward, tilting his head. You don't get it. This isn't optional. You either bend. He didn't get to finish. The front door swung open again, and there was Colmai's son, my 13-year-old standing with the rifle I kept locked away in the den. His stance wasn't sloppy, wasn't childish. He'd watched me enough times to know exactly how to hold it. Step back, he said, his voice firm. Not loud, but filled with a weight I'd never heard before. Both men froze. The smirk drained from the tall one's face. The big man's jaw tightened. They hadn't expected resistance not like this. I wanted to shout, to tell Cole to put it down, that he didn't understand what could happen, but one look at him stopped me. His eyes weren't reckless. They were clear, sharp, focused. He knew exactly what he was doing. Out of the garage, Cole said again, "Nook." For a long second, the only sound was the hiss of steam from the broken truck. Then the tall one raised his hands slightly, trying to play it off. Kid, you don't want to do this. Put the toy down before someone gets hurt. Cole didn't flinch. This isn't a toy, and if you take one more step, you'll find out how real it is. The words hit like a gunshot themselves. The balance shifted. The men weren't in control anymore. The big enforcer's lips curled, part snarl, part disbelief. You're making a mistake, boy. But he didn't move closer. Neither of them did. They could see the way Cole's hands were steady, the way his shoulders squared. He wasn't bluffing. Lisa stepped in beside me, her voice cutting the air like steel. You heard him. Get out. The tall one's eyes flicked between us, calculating, measuring the odds. For the first time, doubt cracked through his smug expression. This isn't over, he muttered. Cole adjusted his grip just slightly, enough to make the threat real. It is for today. Leave. The two men exchanged a glance. Something unspoken passed between them, frustration, maybe even fear, but they backed away. Slow, deliberate steps. No sudden movements. They climbed into the battered truck, its hood still steaming, shards of our garage door crunching under their boots. The engine coughed to life, protesting the abuse, but it held. Before pulling out, the big one leaned out the window, eyes locked on me. You think you've won? This is bigger than you. We will be back. Then the truck reversed down the driveway, leaving behind a scar of tire marks and a home split open like a wound. For a moment, none of us moved. My chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. Lisa's grip on my arm finally loosened, but her eyes stayed fixed on Cole, and Cole, my son, slowly lowered the rifle, his breathing steady, his face unreadable. I stepped toward him, voice low. You okay, son? He nodded once. Not cocky, not shaken, just sure. I wasn't going to let them hurt us. The weight of those words sank into me deeper than anything else. He was only 13, but in that moment, he had stood as the line between us and chaos. I wanted to tell him he shouldn't have had to, that it was my job, not his. But all I managed was to pull him into my arms, rifle and all. Lisa wrapped around us both. For a moment, the three of us were one unbreakable knot. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the calm after a storm, the kind that warns you the storm isn't gone, it's just circling, and we knew they'd return. That night, after the cops finally left, shaking their heads, muttering about no jurisdiction and community disputes, our house felt different. The broken garage yawned like an open wound. The air inside still smelled of smoke, oil, and splintered wood. Lisa patched what she could, sweeping glass into neat piles, her movements sharp and precise. She needed order, even in chaos. Cole sat at the kitchen table, silent, the rifle propped against the wall within reach. I knew I should have told him to put it away, but I didn't, not this time. I stared out the front window into the night. Every set of headlights that passed made my shoulders tense. Every whisper of tires on asphalt sounded like that truck coming back. Lisa finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. They'll return. I know, I said. Cole lifted his head, his eyes older than they should have been. Then we'll be ready. The weight of it settled over me. My son, 13 years old, talking like a soldier, like someone who'd already crossed the line between boyhood and manhood, because the world had shoved him there. I walked over, put a hand on his shoulder. You were brave today, braver than I could have asked, but you don't have to carry this alone. That's on me. He met my eyes. We carried it together, and he was right. The garage could be rebuilt, doors could be replaced, walls could be mended, but something inside us had changed forever. This wasn't about property value, or rules, or even an HOA. It was about power, control, fear, and as long as we stood together, they wouldn't break us. That night, as I locked the doors and double-checked the windows, one truth burned in my chest. We weren't just protecting a house, we were defending a home, a family, a line no one had the right to cross. And if they came back well, this time, they wouldn't be the ones writing the rules. Tommy shoved a spare handheld radio into my palm. Stay tuned to this channel, he said. I clipped it onto my belt just as Tommy keyed up again. Dispatch. W2NGX escorting homeowner back on foot. Another voice came through the static. This is Pete down on Oak. I can swing my tractor into the south turn. If the deputies want it blocked, copy that, citizen, dispatch replied. Hold position off the roadway. Tommy gave me a quick wink. Neighborhood watch hold school version. And then I ran. Every fence post ticked by like a metronome. 8 minutes felt like 8 miles. Crossing those same backyards, retracing my route, was somehow even more dangerous now. Knowing that help was on its way made my chest swell with hope while also amplifying my fear. Every shadow looked like an ambush. When I slipped back through my own gate, I could tell instantly something had shifted. I crept to the window. Lisa was still at her laptop, but her face had gone pale. Cole wasn't glued to the drone feed anymore. He stood by her side, rifle clutched tightly, his eyes locked on the hallway leading to the garage. The pounding of the crowbar had stopped. I couldn't tell if that was a blessing or a curse. Sliding quietly through the door, I felt Lisa's relief wash over me like a gust of air she'd been holding the whole time. They're coming, I whispered Sharif. 8 minutes. A flicker of hope sparked in her eyes, but then fear returned. Mark, look, she pointed to the laptop. On the screen, one drone camera showed the driveway. A sleek black luxury SUV had pulled in behind the beat-up white truck. Its tinted windows hid whoever was inside, the quiet purr of its engine radiating money and menace. My blood chilled. Who the hell is that? I don't know, Lisa said. It just showed up, and it hasn't moved. On the second drone feed, the thugs had noticed. They weren't smashing at the door anymore. They were staring at the SUV, waiting. The one with the crowbar glanced down at his phone. The glow lit up his face. He read something, nodded, and handed the crowbar back to his partner. Whatever message had come in gave them fresh orders. They're going again, Cole said quietly, and he was right. Their movements were sharper now. The arrival of that SUV had lit the fuse. My mind spun. Who was in that car? The boss? An overseer? And then it clicked. The shirts, the phony HOA letters, the intimidation. It's her, I whispered. It has to be Karen Johnson. Lisa's eyes widened. The HOA president. She's here. Of course she was. A micromanager like Karen wouldn't sit this one out. She wanted to watch the destruction she'd ordered, safe in her climate-controlled fortress, smug behind tinted glass. Then Cole's voice cut in. Mom, look. On the screen, the glare of the sun bounced off the thug's phone. Lisa's fingers flew across the trackpad. She tweaked contrast, pulled exposure, zoomed in. Bit by bit, the blur turned into text. 3 words. Final compliance. I froze. That was the link. Direct orders from Karen, sitting smugly in that SUV, to the men breaking into our home. Save it, I hissed. Already did, Lisa muttered, grim. Later, the deputies would pull the same text straight from his phone, same timestamp triple verified. But right then, all that mattered was survival. The door frame groaned under the crowbar, splinters rained down. The barrier between us and them was seconds from breaking. 6 minutes, maybe less. I gripped the rifle so tightly my knuckles burned. Muzzle low, finger straight but ready. I wasn't a violent man. I sold accounting software. But if those men came through that door, there was only one truth left. A father will go as far as he must. Cole stood beside me, pale but resolute. Just 13 and thrust into this by the ego of a woman with too much power. The rage in my chest was white hot. They're almost through, Lisa whispered, her voice tight, and then faint at first, but unmistakable, the high-low wail of sirens in the distance. The sweetest sound I had ever heard. 1 minute, maybe 2. The pounding stopped. The thugs froze, faces pale, their tough guy mask cracked. They dropped their tools, scrambled to their truck, and roared backward out of the garage wreckage. But it was already too late. A sheriff's cruiser crested the hill. Stop sticks unfurled in a perfect throw. Tires hissed flat. The white truck sputtered to a halt. The black SUV twitched like it was about to bolt butt. A second cruiser boxed it in. Deputies spilled out.com. Controlled, weapons low but ready. Driver, kill the engine. Hands out the window. The truck's doors opened. 2 sets of hands rose high. The enforcers were finished. On the drone feed, the SUV's reverse lights flared. But another cruiser cut the exit, sealing them in. Tinted glass stayed still until the driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. White pantsuit, immaculate blonde hair, outrage plastered across her face. Karen Johnson. Even in cuffs, she tried to sneer, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that her contractors had gotten carried away. But Lisa had the receipts. The crash, the threats, the drone footage, and the damning text. Final compliance. The deputies weren't buying Karen's act. Sergeant Miller turned to his team. Cuff her. The metallic snap of handcuffs was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. Karen's empire crumbled right there on the pavement. Her board members showed up too late, shocked to see their queen hauled away. They disowned her instantly, scrambling to save themselves. Her reign of fear ended not with victory, but with a backseat ride in a squad car. The rest was methodical. Deputies logged the jammer, bagged the forged notices, impounded both vehicles. The evidence was airtight, and when the legal dust settled, Karen's arrogance had cost her everything. Probation, felony record. Her precious throne shattered. For us, the rebuilding began. Lumber replaced splinters. A stronger garage rose from the wreckage. Cole returned to being 13 with one difference. He had stared fear in the eye and hadn't wavered. When it was done, I carved a cedar sign and planted it at the end of our drive. It didn't list our name. It didn't give our address. It carried only one truth. We don't start fights, we finish them. Not as a threat, as a promise. Our castle wasn't wood or stone. It was oozed together, unbroken.